Hey everybody, this is Graybeard Gaming. I wanted to start a channel because why not? I don't have enough criticism in my life, I guess, and I wanted to embarrass myself. But what I want to do is what I call a vintage poor boy survival. And we're just going to do it on Elm Creek. I know Farming Simulator 25 is just around the corner. I eventually plan to play it as well, but probably not right away, mostly because I want a lot of the bugs to get worked out. I'm sure that there's not going to be a lot, but there's going to be a flood of other creators with way better equipment than what I've got, because I'm just running on a cheap little laptop and I'm using all of my onboard capturing equipment, microphone, all that. So quality might not be the greatest. Now, what do I mean by a vintage poor boy survival? Well, I mean poor boy in as that I don't have any money. Yes, I know it says 200,000, but that's all loan. It has to be paid back. So I don't have anything. I have no equipment, no land, just 200,000 to try and figure it out with. What am I going to do? And why is it really a poor boy vintage survival? Well, I don't want to have big brand equipment such as John Deere, outside of maybe a John Deere 4000, because that was my dad's tractor and that was his baby, and you know what? That's my way of honoring him. And I might put that tractor in the game. Now, besides that though, I don't want to have Massey. I don't want to have Case International. I don't want Kloss or Fendt. I want to stick to the things such as White, Gleaner, Alice Chalmers, Oliver, things of that nature, which would be what you'd see at a farm auction, and that would be the stuff that somebody starting out is getting and making their best attempt at a good run of being a successful farmer. I grew up around that equipment. I enjoy seeing it to this day. I would rather see a vintage old tractor than a vintage old car. It's just cool. The other thing that I want to emphasize is I don't want to cut trees that are already planted. I want to, if I'm going to do any forestry, I'm going to plant the trees myself. I want to also not buy a farm plot that has buildings that I can sell for a profit just so that I can turn around and use that money on equipment. To me, that's just kind of cheating. You need the buildings anyways, so we'll avoid that. I do want to take on contracts to supplement income because there's not going to be much income in the first couple of months. It's going to be a lot of money being spent. I'm going to try and get some fields planted. That's always a big thing, is to get going on planning. And yeah, I know that some of my equipment will fall under that Case and John Deere, but I don't want it to be my tractors. I don't want it to be my harvesters. I feel like that's just too advanced. I would prefer to try and find that stuff that's a little bit beat up and work with it. So with that in mind, let's kind of get started. Some of the things that I won't be adhering to is probably weeds and fieldstone. Outside of that, I also will not do stop and go breaking. I just find it annoying. But everything else I think is probably fair game. I'm going to avoid super strength, and I might do lease to own. I have never tried it before. It's something that if I need it and I can't afford it, maybe I really don't need it, and we'll go from there. But let's get started and kind of see what kind of equipment we're going to start off with. But first, let's buy some land, because you can't farm without it. So let's see what's available. I think I'm going to go with a starter farm. They took out the house, so we will have to replace the house. And I will take down that old workshop shed. I know that it's a zero value thing. Not the end of the world. We'll just go with it. But I am leaning towards starting off with a starter farm on Elm Creek. I just did Elm Creek because it's got a nice variation of field sizes that are already created. Yeah, I might enlarge some of them. I might combine some of them, but we'll go from there as we make a little bit of advancement through the playthrough. So my options were this farm or one of the other farms, but I don't have the money to actually go in and take those farms on. Now, the bad thing is that I am seeing is this farm, it is line on one field, which is fine, but it's got a lot of cotton, and I don't want to lease equipment unless it's leased to own. And it's got cotton on, I think, 2 of the fields. And, well, I might have to just plow those under. We'll see. I do have a vintage, I guess what you call a vintage harvester for cotton on the that I have downloaded. So maybe we'll stick with that. We'll see. I really don't want to do hay. I would love to get into animals. Chickens are easy. Cows are fairly easy. I'm not a huge fan of the sheep or the horses, and pigs are actually a little bit more involved than I think I really want to do on this playthrough. So let's get started with buying a plot of land, and I think we're just going to start with this one here. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Okay, it looks like we're going to spend $156,000. That's really going to make things tight on going forward. Like, we could buy the property next to us, which has got a larger field and a lot of extra space for buildings, but I don't really want to do that. It is right next to it's a lot closer to where we would be getting our machinery as well. Another option was down here, but I do not have the money for the southeast corner of the map, nor the northeast corner. The southwest corner is also out of my price range, and I would like to have a farm. Now, if I could afford it, I would have done this one here just for the land, because then I would have to create everything. Up here, again, way out of the price range. I mean, we're talking almost $580,000. It's just not going to be something that happens. So let's just go ahead and start with the starter farm. All right, we'll go ahead and we will buy that. And let's go ahead and see what we can do for equipment. So let's go ahead and look. And yes, I did download the KS6B, which Foresight I mean, this thing is a beast, and it's affordable. I can do potatoes and sugar beets, but when it comes to the cotton technology that we've got, I mean, there's just nothing there that I can. Yes, I know I have the Colossus mods, but I'm probably just going to plow that stuff under and plant something else. So let's go look at some equipment. Usually I like to start with a small tractor, but what options do I have? These Deutz or Dutes, or I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce them. They're nice. The Farmall is okay, but I'm just kind of staying away from it because it falls under that Case International blanket. And McCormick is another one that I love. McCormick tractors in this game, they're probably my favorite. Fiat is another one that I have done before on my playthroughs, and they get the job done. I'm just not a huge fan of the Fiat. Ford is another one that I have done, and I actually love Ford tractors, and I will probably use Ford tractors in this playthrough, but like all of these internationals, this Case, the only John Deere that I would consider is this John Deere 4000 diesel, and this thing is wonderful, even though the specifications are not accurate. I believe it was 116 horse that my dad had, so not really 100% accurate, but when you play the game with this tractor, it sounds just like the real thing. It has that high RPM whine. It's almost like a Ford pickup that has the power steering whine. It's easily recognizable. One option I have considered for the tractor is the Kramer, because this one does have a front attachment, and it is a fun tractor to mess around with. Now, I'm probably not going to. And sorry about the kids in the background. It's bedtime, and they are out of sorts. It's definitely bedtime for these kids, so I might have to end this a little bit early and just get them into bed. Now, one tractor I did see that I thought was a lot of fun was this Massey Harris, which it looked like a lot of fun, and then I turned it around, and it is very limited as to what you can do. It's really just a farm yard tractor. It does not have 3-point hitch. It's not going to work for us on this playthrough, so we will just go ahead and skip that one. The Landini is one vintage option that I will have to consider, especially at the price point. I have that kind of money to spend, so it is an option. The other option that I'm looking at is the Oliver, the 1555, which it's basically like the John Deere 4000, but I would probably build it up a little bit just because I don't really feel it's fair to just sit there at $5,000. And this one would actually get us going on the game with a decent tractor, but this thing is a thirsty tractor. I have never seen another tractor in this game that wants to drink as much fuel as this thing. So that's something we have to consider as well. Another one is this Renault, and I have never used the Renault tractors in the game. Again, no reason why, I just have never done it. I know they're a European tractor, and that is, you know, something I'm not overly familiar with, but you know, at the end of the day, you've got to have something that's going to get the job done. These Steyrs are another one that I have played with in game, and I do love these tractors. They're a lot of fun. Uh, they're a lot of fun to play with in the game. So as I'm looking through here, the Zeter is another one that, you know, we could go with, and this blue Zeter, it's kind of a fun tractor, but I just don't think the horsepower is going to cut it. The other thing I have not even checked was the market on used, and it doesn't look like there's anything there. So the other option that I have for a tractor is Chalmers, and I am really intrigued by the idea of getting an Chalmers. Yeah, I could get the Ford, but 190 horse for 18,000 just seems a little bit like I'm cheating. But we'll see how things go later on. If we have an abundance of money and it's something that I think isn't going to matter, then we'll look into it. But the tractor I want is the D21 Chalmers. And this thing, you can get a 3-point hitch, and it costs an extra $1,500. Front weights, yeah, we're going to get the big weights on the front just because this is going to be our initial tractor. Then we're also going to go with I don't think I want wide. I just want the singles with weights. And to me, I think that's the tractor we're going to go with. So for $22,100, let's go ahead and buy that. And all right, now I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of these fields. And this video is getting a little bit long, so what we'll probably do is go ahead and get ourselves a cultivator, and we'll worry about plow later on. But I'm happy to say that I can get an Chalmers cultivator, which we can pull $1,700, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this one. It's 4 meters, so it will service for what we got to do. We'll go ahead and get that one. All right, and let's go ahead and get over to the shop really quick. That way we can wrap this video up with the retrieval of our very first tractor. You know, I'm just going to tab because I don't really want to tab. I think it's kind of a, you know, lazy man's way of doing it. But to get started, I don't want to bore you guys with a running scene on the base game map that you've all seen a million times. So let's go ahead and tab over. All right, look at that beauty. I mean, that Chalmers, she's a pretty girl. So we're gonna go ahead and get started up. And I don't know if you guys can hear her, but that's all right. And we will go ahead and hook up to our new and get this headed back over towards our farm. Now I've only got $19,936 left. We are gonna need an iDrive-by keyboard, so you know that's how I play. I don't have a steering wheel, so I do apologize. I do a lot of mouse clicks as well, so be kind in the comments. Now we get back to our farm, and the thing I like about this tractor is there's no bells and whistles. I mean, this is just brute iron. It has a job it's meant to do, and that's what we're doing with it. So yes, I've got $19,936. We're gonna have to make some money with this, and we're gonna also have to get seeder. We're going to have to get a spreader, preferably one that does both lime and fertilizer. We're also going to need to get a harvester eventually, and I've got a couple in mind that fall into that vintage schematic that I am going for here. We're going to need a wagon. We're going to need a few other things. We don't have a silo. I'd like to try and build a silo. It just depends on what we can come up with. But for right now, I think we're just going to be happy that we've been able to get a tractor, and we'll go ahead and call that